So, to preface this, I live in a rural area with lots of woods around me. There's this local legend that the woods in our area are host to some deep form of evil. And I've heard a lot of teenagers and even some of the adults talk about how if you look for long enough, you'll start to see random gates that don't belong. The story goes that each of these gates that you walk through will make more of these strange events happen. And after you walk through the 7th gate, this is where the stories kind of differ. Some say that you will be transported to hell. Some say it will bring you some terrible event to happen in your life. And some people say it's just bullshit. My friend Jack and I were of the latter opinion. One weekend we were sitting in my room and it was one of those days where we couldn't think of anything to do. Hey, what if we go to the woods and see if we can find one of those gates to hell? I suggested, half as a joke, just to see what Jack would think. He chuckled before saying, "Shit, why not? There's nothing else to do today." We went outside and grabbed our bikes, and we set off down the road. It was about a 5-minute ride down our street until we reached the trails that led into the woods. Once we made it to the end of the trail, we could no longer ride our bikes, so we ditched them and took off on foot. "So what now?" Jack asked, looking around with a bit of a puzzled expression. "I don't really know. I guess we just walk around and look for anything out of place," I answered. We started walking further into the woods, trying to find anything of interest. We had been walking for what felt like forever, and the whole thing had a slightly unnerving feel. Jack broke the silence, stating, "Dude, I think we should head back." I didn't respond and, for some reason, took a couple of more steps forward before seeing something in the distance. "Jack, look, I think I see one." He was completely silent, but we continued to walk forward. There was definitely a gate, a wooden one. It was small, not like the huge, ornate metal gate that I'd been picturing. It was still weird though. We were probably a mile into the woods, and there's no logical reason for a standalone gate to be sitting there. "Huh. I didn't actually expect to see anything," Jack said, surprised. "Let's walk through it," I said, and started to run towards it. Jack was reluctant for a second, but eventually followed me. As I got closer, I got this strange feeling. I shouldn't be here, I thought. But I chalked it up to just being in my head, and I walked through the gate anyway. Jack was right behind me, and he passed through the gate as well. "I wonder what else is out here. Let's keep going." Jack agreed, and we continued walking. We had walked another 10 minutes or so before something started happening. Every minute or two, a twig would snap, or it would sound like someone took a step in our immediate vicinity. We figured it was an animal because every time we heard it, it was in a completely different direction. As soon as this started, I was beginning to get pretty creeped out, and from Jack's face, it looked like he was too. "Hey, you want to head back home and do something else?" I said, trying not to sound like a wimp. "Yeah, man, this is starting to weird me out, and I'm sure it's all fake anyways." We turned and started walking the way we came. Now, this is where it starts to get weird. I'm 100% certain that we're going in the direction we came from, and we had been walking for longer than when we entered the forest, and yet I saw absolutely nothing recognizable. Do you have any idea where we're going? This is the way we came, right? Yeah, I'm sure this is the way we came. Something's really off about this. Jack looked like he was starting to freak out a bit, and I was on the verge as well. We just kept on trekking the way we came. Maybe our perception of time was off or something. And that's when we saw the second gate. Of course, at this point I had no desire at all to tempt the legend and walk through another one of these. But it was like it was pulling me towards it. It took all of my mental effort not to sprint through the gate. I could tell Jack was experiencing the same thing. As we passed by it, I had this unshakable feeling that I was doing something terrible. I almost threw up at that point. As we got further and further away from the gate, the feeling gradually got better. But merely seconds after the feeling passed, these hushed whispers began. They were constant. We were basically running at this point and starting to panic. We saw another gate, and a sense of dread hit me like a train. The whispers turned into screams, and I felt like my ears would rupture with the volume. Go through the gate. Go through the gate. Over and over in my head. The pain was excruciating. I felt as if I had no other choice. I bolted for the gate, and as soon as I made it through, I collapsed, but the voices suddenly vanished, as if they were never there. I just sat there for a minute, trying to figure out what the hell was going on. Jack fell to the ground next to me. I'm sorry, man. I never should have gotten us into this. I thought it was just a myth, I said, trying to keep it together. It's alright. I didn't believe it either. I don't think we have a choice anymore, though. I think so too. I just hope whatever happens when we make it through all 7 isn't worse than this. With that, we stood up, and we began to move with a newfound burst of energy. We planned on finding and getting through these gates quickly so that it would all be over. Within a couple of minutes, we made it to a third gate, and we passed through it. After the third, the temperature dropped to nearly freezing, and those subtle whispers returned. After the fourth gate, we heard the steps and the rustling from earlier. Yet this time we saw dark figures just watching us, just standing there in the tree lines. Yet no matter how hard I looked at them, I couldn't make out any of their features. After the fifth gate, now there were dozens of the shadow figures watching us from all around, and they began to emit this rhythmic laughing noise that was barely discernible. After the sixth, the temperature suddenly shifted from freezing to uncomfortably warm, and after a few minutes, we were both sweating. The shadow figures were still watching, but now they were shuffling around, following behind us. We were approaching the seventh gate, and hesitation settled in. It was dawning on us, the possibilities of what could lay beyond. I looked back at Jack, wondering if there was any way out. We both looked around. We were surrounded by the figures now. Nowhere to go. He nodded, and I took the final step beyond the 7th gate. Everything went silent, as if someone hit the mute button on the entire forest. "Did we make it?" Jack whispered. Before I could respond, one of the shadowy figures from before stepped in front of us. It was massive, and it looked to have something coming out of its head. Horns, maybe, but not solid, more like smoky. It began to speak in a booming voice, but it had no face or mouth to speak of.
"Welcome. We haven't had visitors for a while."
I spoke shakily. "Where are we? We just want to go home." The thing chuckled.
"We are everywhere and nowhere. This is the place in between what some humans call heaven and hell."
Jack spoke up this time. "Just please let us out of here. We didn't know any of this was real." We couldn't quite tell because of the lack of expression, but he seemed to be pondering that, and he let out an audible before speaking up again.
"Most people come here for power or some kind of reward, but I can tell that your intentions are pure, albeit misinformed. I will give you a way out. The souls trapped here rarely get any form of entertainment. So, I propose a simple game. All you have to do is reach the next gate. Outrun these hopeless souls. Do that, and you will be free. You will be safe."
This time, when I looked at the gate, it was like how I pictured it. It was a black-looking tinted metal thing. Ornate gold accents lined the metal, and large torches hung lit from it. It stood around what I would guess was around 150 feet away from us.
"Are you ready? Do you accept these terms? Or would you prefer the alternative?"
I don't think we had a choice. Jack and I locked eyes and nodded. "Let's do this," I said.
"Run,"
the thing yelled. As he said that, he evaporated into a cloud of smoke, and Jack and I took off, faster than we've ever run before. The imprisoned, tortured souls all around us began running, attempting to catch us and cut us off from the sides. I gave a 1-second glance to see them running so unnaturally. It was disturbing to see how inhuman they were moving. We were both hyper-focused on that gate, pushing with everything we had to make it. We were so close. Another 15 seconds and we'd be home. Safe. I then heard a thud, and I looked back to see Jack had tripped onto the ground. I stopped and started to turn to help him, but it was too late. The things were only seconds behind him, and they'd caught up as soon as he fell, piling on top of him. A writhing mass of these things trapped him, and all I could do was watch as they started to bite and dig into Jack's flesh. I wanted to help, but of course I couldn't. I turned and I ran, his cries following after me as I went. I heard his screams piercing my ears, but I didn't look back. I knew I wouldn't be able to bear the sight. I closed the last couple of feet between the gate and me, and I ran through it. I fell to the ground, and everything went black. When I woke up, I was back at the start of the path, where we had stashed our bikes. Every day since it happened, I've been having nightmares, and I have an almost crippling feeling of guilt every day about Jack. I've been thinking about going back, seeing if I can rescue him, or at the very least, get revenge. But I know that's hopeless. I want to be clear about why I wrote this. This isn't a story intended to compel you to go seeking whatever reward that thing spoke of. This is a warning. Don't mess around with things you don't understand. Maybe you've heard stories about these mysterious gates, or staircases, or ladders popping up in forests and woods. If you see them, leave them alone. Don't go looking for them.